How dare you sneak out to marry another woman after wasting 5 years of my life?
Philadelphia woke slowly beneath a veil of gray clouds, the kind that made the city feel intimate and heavy at the same time. Sarah Harris stood by the window of her apartment in West Philly, coffee growing cold in her hands, watching raindrops trace lazy paths down the glass. Ethan was supposed to be in Boston. That was what he'd said the night before, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead as he grabbed his overnight bag. Client meetings. 2 days. I'll call you. Sarah believed him. She always did. At 27, Sarah was everything people admired, beautiful in a quiet, striking way with rich brown skin, expressive eyes, and natural curls that framed her face like a crown she never realized she wore. She worked hard, loved deeply, and trusted completely. For 3 years, Ethan Reynolds had been the center of her life. 3 years of shared routines, late-night takeout, inside jokes, and whispered plans for a future that always seemed just one step away. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Zoe. Sarah smiled and answered. Morning trouble? Sarah, Zoe said, her voice tense. Where are you right now? At home. Why? There was a pause. A long one. I need you to sit down. Sarah frowned. Zoe, you're scaring me. I was invited to a wedding today, Zoe continued slowly. A high society thing near Rittenhouse Square. I almost threw the invitation away until I saw the groom's name. Sarah's stomach tightened. And? Zoe swallowed. The groom is Ethan Reynolds. The world went silent. That's not funny, Sarah said, forcing a laugh that sounded wrong even to her own ears. You're joking, right? I wish I were. Moments later, Zoe was at her door, holding a thick ivory envelope like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Sarah stared at it, her hands trembling as she took it. Gold lettering shimmered mockingly under the light. Ethan Reynolds and Olivia Whitmore. Request the pleasure of your presence. The date was circled. Today. Sarah's knees buckled as she sank onto the couch. He said he loved me, she whispered. Last night. He said it like it meant something. Zoe wrapped her arms around her, but Sarah barely felt it. Every unanswered question, every postponed discussion about marriage, every time Ethan had avoided meeting her family, suddenly screamed with meaning. He's marrying someone else, Sarah said, her voice hollow. And he didn't even have the decency to end things. Zoe's eyes hardened. You're not going to sit here and cry. Sarah looked up. What are you saying? I'm saying you deserve answers. And if he thinks he can erase you like you never existed, he's wrong. The decision settled in Sarah's chest like fire. I'm going, she said. The venue was breathtaking, white roses everywhere, soft music floating through the air, guests laughing as if nothing in the world was wrong. Sarah walked in wearing a simple black dress. Her curls pulled back, her face pale but determined. Then she saw him. Ethan stood at the altar, smiling broadly, dressed in a tuxedo Sarah had never seen before. His hand rested lightly on the arm of a tall, elegant blonde woman in a pristine white gown. Her chest burned. That was supposed to be me. Memories crashed over her, him cooking in her kitchen, his clothes in her closet, his voice in her ear at night. Without thinking, Sarah grabbed a glass of red wine from a passing tray and marched forward. Ethan. The music faltered. Conversations died. Ethan turned and froze. Sarah? His voice cracked. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Her laugh was sharp and broken. That's rich. She turned to the bride, whose eyes were wide with confusion. I don't know who you are, Sarah said, her hands shaking, but you're marrying a man who's been sleeping in my bed for the past 3 years. Gasps echoed through the room. Sarah, stop. Ethan stepped forward. She didn't let him finish. The wine poured smoothly, staining white silk red. Chaos erupted. The bride screamed. Guests shouted. Security rushed forward. Ethan called her name again. And again, but Sarah had already turned away, tears streaming down her face as humiliation crushed her chest. She ran. As Sarah burst into the hallway, her vision blurred by tears and rage, she collided hard with someone. Oof. Strong hands steadied her. I'm sorry, a calm, deep voice said. Are you hurt? She looked up and froze. The man was tall, strikingly handsome, with sharp features and kind, observant eyes. His dark hair was neatly styled, his suit impeccably tailored. He didn't look amused or judgmental, only concerned. I'm fine, she snapped, pulling away. Just move. But as she stepped past him, he spoke again. I saw what happened. She stopped. You were brave, he said quietly. Even if it didn't feel like it. Something about his words cracked the dam she'd been holding together. I wasn't brave, she whispered. I was stupid. He shook his head. No. You were honest. He hesitated, then extended his hand. Giles Park. She stared at it for a moment before taking it. Sarah Harris, she said softly. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting second, the noise, the pain, the betrayal faded. As Sarah pulled her hand back and walked away, Giles watched her go, unaware that this moment, born of heartbreak and spilled wine, had just altered both their lives forever. Giles Park watched Sarah Harris disappear through the glass doors of the wedding venue, her shoulders stiff with pain she refused to let anyone see. Something about her unsettled him. Not her beauty, though that was undeniable, but the way she had stood her ground in a room full of strangers, spilling truth like blood on white silk. He had seen wealth, entitlement, and arrogance his entire life. What he hadn't seen often was courage wrapped in heartbreak. Behind him, the wedding descended into chaos. Mr. Park, a voice hissed urgently in Korean. Chairman Park is asking for you. Giles closed his eyes briefly. Of course he is. To the guests, Giles Park was simply a distant business associate of the bride's family, quiet, well-dressed, polite. No one suspected that the Park name carried weight far beyond Philadelphia. In Seoul, Park Industries was a giant real estate, architecture, technology, global investments. Giles was the only son of Chairman Park Dae-young, a man whose approval was more valuable than gold and whose disappointment could ruin lives. Giles had not come to Philadelphia for weddings. He had come to escape one. 2 years earlier, his father had arranged his future with the precision of a business deal. Marriage to a woman from a powerful Korean conglomerate family. It was perfect on paper. Profitable. Strategic. Loveless. When Giles refused, the house turned cold. You are my son, Chairman Park had said, his voice steel. You will not embarrass this family. Giles left that night. No arguments. No apologies. Philadelphia became his exile, chosen not for comfort but for distance. He was overseeing the American expansion of Park Architecture Group, a project meant to prove his worth without his father's shadow. Success here meant independence. Failure meant crawling back to Seoul in disgrace. And there was another reason. A secret no one in his family knew. Years ago, Park Industries had acquired land in North Philadelphia, quietly, aggressively forcing residents out under the guise of urban renewal. One of those residents had been a black-owned community center, shut down and erased. Giles had discovered the truth by accident. And he hated what his family name stood for. Philadelphia wasn't just business, it was penance. That night, Giles stood alone in his penthouse apartment overlooking the Schuylkill River. Loosened, phone buzzing endlessly with calls from Seoul he refused to answer. Instead, his thoughts returned to Sarah. Her voice. Her pain. The way she hadn't begged Ethan for an explanation. Most women he knew had been raised to endure quietly. Sarah had chosen fire. He poured himself a drink and stared out at the city. Why did fate place her in front of me like that? Across the city, Sarah sat curled on her couch, Zoe beside her, social media exploding with videos of the wedding scandal. Ethan's calling non-stop, Zoe said. Do you want me to block him? Yes, Sarah whispered. Forever. But as she closed her eyes, it wasn't Ethan's face she saw. It was the stranger's. Giles Park. The calm in his eyes. The steadiness in his voice. For the first time since the betrayal, Sarah slept without crying herself awake. The next morning, Giles received an email that made his jaw tighten. From Chairman Park. Subject, you have forgotten who you are. The message was brief. Return to Seoul. The marriage discussion will resume. Giles deleted it. Instead, he opened another file, one tied to a struggling Philadelphia marketing firm run by a woman named Sarah Harris. He hadn't planned to look her up. But some collisions were not accidents. Philadelphia did not let scandals rest. By morning, Sarah Harris's name was everywhere. The video of red wine soaking into white silk looped endlessly across social media, cropped, captioned, distorted. Headlines called her the other woman, the bitter ex, the wedding wrecker. No one asked who had been lied to. Sarah sat at her small kitchen table, phone face down, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. Her inbox was full, clients postponing meetings, coworkers checking in, her boss requesting a private conversation. Zoe hovered nearby like a guard dog. You don't owe anyone an explanation, But I might lose my job, Sarah whispered. My reputation, everything I worked for, gone. Because he couldn't tell the truth. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan, 17 missed calls. Then a text. Sarah, please. I can explain everything. I never meant for you to find out like that. Her hands shook. Find out like that. As if there had been a right way to discover betrayal. She blocked his number. By noon, the call she feared came. Sarah, her manager said gently, we're putting you on temporary leave. Just until this dies. Down. Temporary. The word felt like exile. When the call ended, Sarah finally cried, not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears sliding down her cheeks as the weight of humiliation crushed her chest. Zoe grabbed her keys. We're getting out of this apartment. Fresh air. Across the city, Giles Park watched the same video on his phone, jaw clenched. He hated the commentary, the way people stripped Sarah of dignity for refusing to be invisible. His assistant stood nervously in his office. Sir, the board wants a statement. You were seen at the wedding. Giles didn't look up. I have nothing to apologize for. And Chairman Park called again. That earned a humorless smile. Tell him I'm busy building something honest. Minutes later, an email popped into his inbox, one he'd requested the night before. JD Marketing Solutions. Marketing consultant, Sarah Harris. Giles leaned back in his chair. Fate, it seemed, had a sense of timing. Sarah was leaving a coffee shop near Market Street when a black sedan pulled up beside her. She stiffened. The window rolled down. Sarah. Ethan. Her chest tightened with rage. What are you doing here? I needed to see you, he said, stepping out. His once perfect appearance looked rumpled, desperate. They called off the wedding. She laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You expect sympathy? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he insisted. My family pressured me. Olivia's family. Was business. You were the one I loved. You loved me? Sarah's voice trembled. You let me plan a future while you planned another. Woman's wedding. He reached for her hand. She stepped back. Don't touch me. I'll fix this, Ethan said urgently. Just give me time. There is no time, she said coldly. And there is no us. She turned to leave. Sarah, he called after her, voice cracking. I can't lose you. She didn't turn around. That evening, Sarah received an unexpected email. Subject, confidential business proposal. She frowned and opened it. Miss Harris. I hope this message finds you well under the circumstances. My firm is expanding in Philadelphia and is seeking a marketing consultant for a long-term project. I believe your expertise would be invaluable. If you're open to discussing this professionally, I'd appreciate the opportunity. Giles Park. Her heart skipped. The man from the wedding. Zoe squealed. That's him, isn't it? The handsome one? Sarah hesitated, then typed back. I'd be open to a meeting. They met 2 days later in a quiet conference room overlooking the city. Giles was composed, respectful, strictly professional. No pity. No prying. I won't pretend your situation doesn't exist, he said calmly. But it doesn't define your competence. I'm offering work, not rescue. Something in her chest loosened. I don't mix personal drama with business, Sarah replied. Good, Giles said. Neither do I. Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. Outside, Philadelphia buzzed, unaware that two broken people had just taken their first step toward something dangerous, powerful, and impossible to ignore. That night, Ethan stood outside Sarah's apartment, calling her name into the darkness. She watched from the window, unmoved. For the first time, silence felt like strength. The first rule Sarah Harris set for herself was simple. Do not fall for him. Giles Park was her client, nothing more. Not the man who had steadied her in the worst moment of her life. Not the quiet presence who looked at her like she was worth protecting. Just a name on a contract. She repeated that to herself as she walked into Park Architecture Group's Philadelphia office for their first official meeting. Glass walls. Clean lines. Minimalist elegance. Everything about the space reflected control. Just like him. Giles stood near the window, reviewing documents on his tablet. He looked up when she entered, his expression composed, but something unreadable flickered in his eyes. Miss Harris, he greeted formally. Thank you for coming. Mr. Park, she replied, matching his tone. Let's get started. No smiles. No warmth. Good. They worked efficiently, too efficiently. Sarah dissected his company's public image, identifying weaknesses and missed opportunities. She spoke with clarity, confidence, and quiet authority. Giles listened, asked sharp questions, and never interrupted. Impressed her. That bothered her more than she wanted to admit. "You're suggesting repositioning us as community-focused," Giles said. "That's bold given our history." She met his gaze. "It's necessary. Especially if you plan to stay in Philadelphia long-term." Pause. "I do," he said quietly. The words lingered. At the end of the meeting, Sarah slid a printed agreement across the table. "These are my terms," she said. "Strictly professional. No personal involvement. No favors. No blurred lines." Giles studied the document, then looked up. "You don't trust yourself," he observed. Her jaw tightened. "I trust myself just fine. I don't trust timing." Something like understanding crossed his face. "I'll add my own term," he said, signing the contract. "Complete honesty. If this ever becomes complicated, we address it directly." She nodded. "Agreed." Their hands brushed as they exchanged copies. The contact lasted half a second. Too long. Days turned into weeks. They met often, strategy sessions, site visits, late evenings refining presentations. The city watched them pass each other like planets in careful orbit. Giles never crossed a line. Never lingered too close. Never asked about Ethan. Never commented on her smile, or the way she bit her lip when thinking. Which somehow made it harder. Sarah found herself noticing things she shouldn't. The way he rolled up his sleeves when focused. The way his voice softened when he spoke about design as storytelling. The way loneliness sat quietly behind his calm. One evening as they wrapped up a late meeting, rain poured outside. "You should take an umbrella," Giles said, handing her one from the stand. "Thank you." Their eyes met again. "You don't have to carry everything alone," he added gently. She swallowed. "Neither do you." For a moment the air thickened. Then she stepped back. "Good night, Mr. Park." "Good night, Miss Harris." Across the city, Ethan watched them from his car. His knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. Who was this man? Why was Sarah smiling again? He pulled out his phone, dialing a number he shouldn't have. "I need help," he said into the darkness. "I can't lose her." That night, Giles stood in his penthouse, staring at the signed contract on his desk. He'd agreed to boundaries. But no contract could silence the truth forming quietly in his chest. Sarah Harris was no longer just a consultant. And that realization was dangerous. The city looked different after midnight. Philadelphia softened when the noise faded, streetlights glowing, traffic thinning, secrets easier to confess in the quiet. Sarah hadn't planned to stay late at the office, but deadlines didn't care about emotional exhaustion. Neither, apparently, did Giles Park. She glanced up from her laptop when she sensed him behind her. "You're still here?" she said, surprised. "So are you," he replied calmly, setting 2 cups of coffee on the table. "You forgot to eat again." She frowned. "I didn't tell you that." "You didn't have to." That should have unsettled her. Instead, it warmed something dangerously tender inside her chest. They worked in silence for a while, the hum of the city filling the space between them. Then, Sarah leaned back, rubbing her temples. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "I wonder if everyone sees me as the woman who ruined a wedding." Giles didn't answer immediately. "They see what's convenient," he said finally. "Not what's true." She looked at him then, really looked at him. "And what do you see?" "A beat. A woman who refused to disappear," he said. "That takes strength." Her throat tightened. "I didn't feel strong," she admitted. "I felt replaceable." Giles' jaw clenched. "You were never replaceable," he said, his voice low. "You were lied to." Silence stretched. The air felt heavier now. More intimate. Sarah hesitated, then spoke before she could stop herself. "Why are you really in Philadelphia?" The question hung between them. Giles exhaled slowly as if making a decision. "My father," he began, "believes control is love. He built an empire by arranging everything, including his children." She listened, unmoving. "I was supposed to marry a woman I barely knew," he continued. "A merger disguised as romance." "So you ran," she said softly. "I left," he corrected. "There's a difference." Her lips curved faintly. "I understand that." He met her gaze. "Do you?" She nodded. "I was someone's secret. Until I wasn't." Something shifted then, 2 wounds recognizing each other. The clock struck 12:47 a.m. Rain tapped against the windows. Neither of them moved. Giles stepped closer, too close. You should go home, he said quietly. I know, she replied. Neither did. Their eyes locked, the space between them charged with everything they refused to name. His hand lifted then dropped. Boundaries, he reminded himself aloud. Sarah swallowed. Yes. But her heart disagreed. Across the city, a black luxury sedan rolled silently through the streets. Chairman Park De-young stared out the window, expression unreadable. So this is where he's hiding, he said in Korean. The assistant beside him nodded. He's built a respectable operation here. And the woman? Chairman Park's lips curved slightly. Every weakness has a name, he replied. Find it. The next morning, Jael walked into his office to find his father standing by the window. Father, he said carefully. Chairman Park turned eyes sharp. You've been very busy, he said. Playing architect. Playing American. Jael's jaw tightened. I'm building something real. Real doesn't exist without obedience, his father replied. And this woman, Sarah Harris, she's a distraction. The name hit harder than it should have. She's my consultant, Jael said evenly. Chairman Park smiled. Then you won't mind replacing her. Jael stiffened. No. The single word echoed. For the first time, something dangerous flickered in Chairman Park's eyes. That evening, Sarah received an anonymous message. You don't belong in his world. Her heart pounded. From her office window, she saw Jael standing across the street, looking up, unease written across his face. Their eyes met. The lines were already blurring, and someone intended to erase them. Jael had not slept. The anonymous message Sarah received replayed in his mind like a warning bell he could not silence. By morning he knew exactly who had sent it. Chairman Park De-young never made idle threats. Jael arrived at his office early, determined to confront whatever storm was coming. He barely had time to set down his briefcase before the doors opened. His father walked in. Not alone. Two men followed, longtime family friends from Seoul, their expressions carefully neutral. Jael recognized them instantly. Mr. and Mrs. Han. Their daughter was beautiful, accomplished, and perfectly suitable. On paper. Sit, Chairman Park said not unkindly, which made it worse. Jael remained standing. I didn't invite guests, he said coolly. Chairman Park's gaze hardened. You don't invite elders. You receive them. Jael exhaled slowly and gestured toward the conference table. Everyone sat. Except him. Chairman Park folded his hands. You have embarrassed this family long enough. The wedding will be held in Seoul. 2 months. Silence slammed into the room. Jael finally spoke. I will not marry her. Mrs. Han smiled tightly. Jael, dear, our families. I have no interest in marrying anyone, Jael interrupted calmly, except the woman I choose. The air froze. Chairman Park's face darkened. This is not a discussion about love. This is responsibility. I have fulfilled my responsibilities, Jael replied. I built your American expansion from nothing. I turned a profit without your interference. You did it with my name, Chairman Park snapped. And I did it with my integrity, Jael shot back. The room went deadly quiet. Chairman Park stood. You are confused, he said coldly. And confusion comes from indulgence. His eyes flicked briefly, deliberately to the folder on the table. Inside was Sarah's name. Her company. Her clients. Her financials. Jael's chest tightened. You brought her into this, Jael said dangerously. She has nothing to do with our family. Everything you touch becomes my concern, Chairman Park replied. If she is your choice, then she is your weakness. Jael slammed his hand on the table. Do not threaten her. The two men from Seoul exchanged uneasy glances. Chairman Park's expression did not change. I don't threaten, he said. I correct. An hour later the strike came. Jael's assistant rushed in pale. Sir, our primary investor just withdrew. 2 others followed. Jael's phone buzzed email after email, partnerships dissolving, contracts frozen. Chairman Park adjusted his cufflinks. Come home, he said simply. Apologize. Marry well. And this inconvenience will disappear. Jael looked at him with something close to disbelief. You would destroy everything I built, he said, just to prove you can? Chairman Park met his gaze. I built you. I can unbuild you. That afternoon, Sarah's world collapsed again. Her bank called first. Then a client canceled without explanation. Then a landlord emailed about new ownership. By the 3rd call, her hands were shaking. Something was wrong. When Giles called, his voice was tight. "We need to talk." They met in the same conference room where they had drawn boundaries. Now those boundaries lay in ruins. "This is my fault," Giles said quietly. "My father is pressuring you to force me back to Seoul." Sarah stared at him. "So I'm collateral damage?" "No," he said fiercely. "You're the reason I'm standing my ground." Her chest ached. "Then stop. Go back. Marry whoever he wants." "I won't," he said without hesitation. "I will not marry anyone except the woman I choose." Her breath caught. "And if he destroys us both?" she whispered. Giles stepped closer, eyes steady, voice raw. "Then I'll rebuild," he said. "Without his name. Without his permission. But not without you, if you're willing to stand with me." Tears filled her eyes. Outside, Chairman Park watched from a black car across the street. And for the first time he wondered if his son had become something he could no longer control. Sarah didn't go home after leaving Giles' office. She walked. Past familiar streets, past memories, past the version of herself that had once believed love was safe. Philadelphia buzzed around her, uncaring, relentless. Every step echoed the same question in her mind. Am I strong enough to stay? Her phone vibrated again. "Ethan, new number, I know what's happening. I can help you." She laughed bitterly and kept walking. Giles stood alone in his office long after night fell, the city lights blinking like distant warnings. His phone lay on the desk, silent. Sarah hadn't replied to his last message. "Please don't disappear." He pressed his thumb against the edge of the desk, jaw tight. Chairman Park had always believed fear was loyalty. Giles was learning it was only control. Sarah returned home to find Zoe waiting, arms crossed, worry etched deep into her face. "You look like you've been carrying the world," Zoe said softly. Sarah sank onto the couch. "I might be ruining my life again." Zoe sat beside her. "Tell me." So Sarah did, about Chairman Park, the threats, the money disappearing, the arranged marriage, the way Giles had looked at her when he said her name like it meant survival. "And now?" Zoe asked. Sarah stared at her hands. "Now I think the right thing to do is walk away. Let him go back. Let his father win." Zoe's voice was firm. "Is that what you want or what you think you're supposed to do?" Sarah's chest tightened. "I'm tired of being the reason someone chooses wrong," she whispered. The next morning, Sarah drafted an email she hoped she'd never have to send. "Giles, this situation is bigger than both of us. I won't be the reason you lose everything. I think it's best if I step away professionally and personally. Sarah." She hovered over the send button. Then the doorbell rang. Giles stood there, coat damp from the rain, eyes dark with urgency. "I read your draft," he said quietly. Her heart dropped. "How?" "I know how you write when you're afraid," he said, stepping inside. "You distance yourself. Protect everyone but yourself." She swallowed hard. "This isn't a fair fight." "No," he agreed. "But it's a real one." She shook her head. "Your father will destroy me." "He already tried," Giles said. "And I'm still here." Silence stretched between them, heavy and raw. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me," she said. "And I won't let you decide my life out of fear," he replied. He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. "I didn't choose you because you were easy," he said softly. "I chose you because you were honest. Because you stood up when the world told you to sit down." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to survive this." Giles' voice dropped. "Then don't survive it alone." Across the city, Ethan watched from his phone as Sarah's name trended again, this time tied to rumors about foreign investors and corporate intimidation. He smiled slowly. "If Park is tearing her world apart," he muttered, "then maybe I can be the one who puts it back together." That night, Chairman Park boarded a flight back to Seoul. But not before making one last call. "Proceed," he said calmly. "If he won't return willingly, make sure he has nothing left to stay for." Sarah stood at her window later, watching rain streak down the glass just like the day her life had shattered. Except this time, Giles stood behind her. Not touching. Not leaving. And she realized something terrifying and beautiful. Walking away would be easier. But staying might finally be worth the cost. The article dropped at 6:12 a.m. Sarah didn't see it at first. It was Zoe who called, voice shaking, words tumbling over each other. "Sarah, don't open social media. Just don't." Her stomach sank. She opened it anyway. Exclusive, Philadelphia marketer linked to foreign billionaire scandal. Sources claim Sarah Harris used a personal relationship to secure contracts from Park Architecture Group. Her face stared back at her from the screen cropped from the wedding video, eyes red, lips parted mid-accusation. The comments were brutal. Gold digger. Homewrecker twice over. She knew exactly what she was doing. Sarah's hands went numb. They're saying I slept my way into a contract, she whispered. Zoe cursed. This is calculated. Someone fed this to the press. Sarah already knew who. Giles arrived less than 20 minutes later, breathless, fury barely contained. I'm so sorry, he said. This is my father. Her laugh was thin, broken. Your father doesn't even know me. But he's destroying me. Anyway. He reached for her hand. She pulled back, not from him but from the fear pouring through her veins. I can't breathe, she said. Every time I stand up, someone pushes me back down. The room felt too small. The air too heavy. I can't do this again, she whispered. I won't be humiliated for loving someone. Giles' voice cracked. Then let me fight for you. She shook her head. You already are, and it's costing you everything. He stepped closer, eyes shining with something raw and unguarded. I would lose everything twice over, he said, if it meant you never had to feel this alone again. Her breath hitched. The dam broke. Tears streamed down her face as her body folded in on itself, knees buckling. Giles caught her. Before she hit the floor, pulling her into his chest as she sobbed loud, unrestrained, broken. I'm so tired, she cried. I just wanted to be loved honestly. He held her tighter, one hand cradling the back of her head. You are, he murmured. You are. She looked up at him then, eyes red, lips trembling, heart laid bare. Don't promise what you can't protect, she whispered. I'm not promising safety, he replied softly. I'm promising truth. Her hands gripped his coat. The world fell silent. And then he kissed her. Not rushed. Not hungry. It was gentle, reverent, as if he were afraid she might shatter. Her lips trembled against his. Before she kissed him back, emotion flooding through her, grief and hope colliding in one breathless moment. She tasted salt and rain and something like home. When they pulled apart, their foreheads rested together. That was the line, she whispered. Yes, he said. And I crossed it knowingly. She exhaled. So did I. By evening, the media storm intensified. Another article followed. Insiders claim Park heir defying arranged marriage for American lover. Photographers camped outside Sarah's apartment. A woman shouted questions through the door. Are you pregnant? Did you know he was engaged? How much did he pay you? Sarah slid down the wall, hands over her ears. Giles stood between her and the door, calm but unyielding. They will not touch you, he said quietly. Outside, Ethan watched the chaos unfold on his phone. Perfect, he muttered. Now she'll need someone safe. Later that night, as Sarah lay awake beside Giles, fully clothed, a careful distance between them, she stared at the ceiling. If this ends badly, she said softly, I don't regret that kiss. Giles turned toward her, eyes steady. Neither do I, he said. It means we're alive. Outside, the city roared, hungry for their downfall. But for one fragile moment, wrapped in truth and quiet, they held on to each other. And that would cost them dearly. The morning after the kiss, Giles Park made a decision that would end his life as he knew it. He stood alone in his office before sunrise, the skyline bleeding gold through the windows. His desk lay two phones, one buzzing nonstop with calls from Seoul, the other flooded with messages from American partners demanding answers. For the first time, he didn't answer either. Instead, he opened a new document. Public statement, for immediate release. The press conference was announced 3 hours later. Sarah watched the news alert flash across her phone, heart pounding. Park Architecture Group to address allegations. Giles, you don't have to do this, she said softly, fear edging her voice. I do, he replied, calm but resolute. Silence is what they used to hurt you. The room was packed. Reporters, cameras, analysts. Giles walked to the podium alone, no legal team flanking him, no prepared smile. He looked free. My name is Giles Park, he began. And everything you've heard about Sarah Harris is false. A murmur rippled through the room. She did not solicit work, manipulate contracts, or benefit from any personal relationship. It was hired because she is competent. Period. A reporter shouted, What about your arranged marriage in Korea? Giles met the camera head-on. Yes, he said. My father arranged a marriage without my consent. I rejected it. Yes. And when I refused to comply, he continued, voice steady, he used his power to punish. Anyone he believed influenced me, including Sarah. The room erupted. This is an internal family matter, a reporter yelled. Are you accusing your own father of corporate intimidation? Giles didn't blink. Yes. Across the world in Seoul, Chairman Park watched the broadcast in silence, his jaw tightening. With each word. He's burning the house down, an aide whispered. Chairman Park's lips curved slightly. Then he'll feel the cold. Back in Philadelphia, Giles' voice rang clear. I will not allow lies to destroy an innocent woman, he said. Effective immediately, I am. Stepping down from Park Architecture Group. Shock exploded through the room. I am forfeiting my inheritance, my position, and any claim to Park Industries. Sarah covered her mouth, tears spilling over. But I am not stepping away from the truth. He bowed once, deep, deliberate, and walked away. The fallout was immediate. Stock prices dipped. Board members panicked. Legal teams scrambled. Within hours, Park Architecture Group issued a distancing statement. Giles Park was officially on his own. That evening he returned to Sarah's apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and tired eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have told you earlier. She ran into his arms. You chose me when it mattered, she whispered. That's enough. He held her tightly. I chose myself too. But the war wasn't over. A new article surfaced that night. Yexair makes explosive claims, sources question motives. And beneath it, a familiar name appeared as an anonymous source. Reynolds. Ethan sat back, satisfied. If he wants to burn it down, he murmured, I'll make sure there's nothing left to stand on. Sarah and Giles stood at the window watching news vans gather below. What happens now? She asked softly. Giles' eyes were steady, fire flickering behind them. Now, he said, we build something they can't take. Outside, the city buzzed with scandal and speculation. Inside, two people stood in the ashes, une fra. The city had quieted. For the first time in weeks, Philadelphia felt like it could breathe. Not that Sarah Harris had truly rested. The headlines had stopped for now, but the sting of betrayal lingered. Every glance at her inbox reminded her that someone like Ethan could still try to hurt her. Every client call was a subtle test of her confidence, her authority, her ability to survive in a world that didn't forgive mistakes. And yet she had survived. Giles arrived at her apartment unannounced one morning, carrying 2 coffees and a file folder. Morning, he said, smiling faintly. I thought you could use both. Sarah raised an eyebrow. I thought I'd earned the right to drink coffee in peace without the man who burns his own empire appearing in my kitchen. Giles chuckled. I burned it for a reason. Today we rebuild. She hesitated, then nodded. Let's see if you can keep up. They spent the day going over strategies for Sarah's marketing firm, rebranding campaigns to counteract the media lies, contacting old clients, and quietly negotiating new partnerships. Every so often, their hands brushed over the papers, over the pen, over the laptop keyboard. Each touch lingered slightly longer than necessary. They didn't speak about the kiss. They didn't speak about the nights of tears, of vulnerability, of shared fear. And yet, the air between them hummed with it. By late afternoon, exhausted and covered in scribbles and notes, Sarah leaned back in her chair. I think this is it, she said. We've stabilized. Not perfect, but stable. Giles leaned closer, resting his forearm on the desk near hers. His presence was deliberate. Steady. Safe. Stable isn't enough, he said softly. You deserve more. Her breath caught. More? He nodded, eyes dark and serious. More safety. More trust. More honesty. And I don't mean business. She looked down, ashamed and afraid. I'm not good at that. You're not supposed to be good, he whispered. You're supposed to be you. And I'll take that. Every messy, angry, brilliant piece of you. The room grew quieter as the sun dipped behind the skyscrapers. The golden light fell over them, painting their shadows together on the floor. Sarah could feel it, an invisible pull, a weight she hadn't wanted to acknowledge. Giles reached out, gently lifting a curl that had fallen across her face. You're beautiful, he said, voice low, intimate. Not despite the chaos, because of it. She swallowed hard. And you? Are you always this calm in the middle of storms? He smiled faintly, but his eyes were stormy. Not always, but I've learned to hold on to the things that matter. And right now you matter more than anything else. Her chest tightened. Her hands found his slowly, hesitantly, until they intertwined like puzzle pieces. And finally she let herself lean in. Not for a kiss but for the closeness she had been starving for, the warmth she had refused to allow herself until now. She pressed her forehead to his shoulder, and he held her like he would never let go. The city could scream outside. The world could collapse around them. It didn't matter. For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt safe. Evening came. They stayed there, wrapped in quiet, their conversation low and soft, about trivial things, favorite cafes, old Philadelphia streets, a new exhibition at the museum. Every laugh, every sigh, every subtle touch stitched them closer together. Slowly, deliberately, the intimacy deepened, not with fiery passion but with shared vulnerability, trust, and the unspoken knowledge that they had chosen each other in the ashes. And somewhere deep inside, Sarah knew that the kiss they had shared before had been only the beginning. This was the real foundation. The city hummed with its usual chaos, but Sarah felt it differently now. Every street, every passing car, every news alert reminded her that her life had changed. It had rebuilt professionally. She had begun to trust again. And she had begun to feel, quietly but fully, fragile. Yet shadows of the past never sleep. It began with a single email. From unknown. Subject, exposed, Harrison Park connection. Sarah froze. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside were screenshots of private messages, texts she had sent to Giles in the days following. The wedding incident, edited, twisted, and ready to be weaponized. Alongside them were doctored photos of her entering Giles' apartment late at night. She looked up to see Giles already scanning over the same files. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. "It's him," she whispered. "I know," he said, voice low. "Ethan." Her stomach churned. "Why now?" He's just trying to hurt me." "No," Giles said. "He wants to destroy everything around you, including me. He's desperate, reckless, and he knows he can't control you anymore." The weight of it pressed down on her. The media had already picked up the story in Anonymous. Tip released all of the doctored screenshots, claiming Sarah had manipulated the billionaire heir for personal gain. Panic seeped into her chest. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't handle this again." Giles stepped closer. "You don't have to handle it alone," he said. "Not now, not ever." Her hands shook as she looked up at him. His eyes, steady, unwavering, met hers, and for a moment everything else faded. Hours later, in a safe house Giles had arranged quietly in the city, the storm of media and manipulation still raged outside. The apartment was dark except for the faint glow of the city beyond the windows. Sarah sat, curled on the couch, knees drawn up, exhausted. Giles knelt beside her, brushing a damp curl away from her forehead. "You've been carrying too much," he said softly. "Let me take some of it." She closed her eyes, leaning into him. "I'm tired. I'm so tired." "You don't have to be strong all the time," he murmured. "You can be you here." Her lips trembled, eyes glassy. "I feel like I've lost control again, like he's winning." Giles shook his head. "Not if I can help it. I will fight him. I will fight anyone who tries to take you from me." Her breath hitched. "And if you lose?" "I won't," he whispered. "Because I have you." Hours passed in silence. Not the heavy, awkward kind, but the quiet intimacy that comes from raw trust. Then, almost instinctively, Giles leaned closer. Sarah didn't pull away. Their lips met, soft at first, almost tentative, but this time it was different. There was no chaos. Outside, no expectation, no judgment. Just them. The kiss deepened as tension melted into relief, into desire, into a kind of quiet surrender. She pressed her hands to his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I don't want to let go," she whispered against his lips. "You won't," he said, voice husky. "Not tonight. Not ever." And in that moment, the world, the lies, the media, the threats didn't exist. There was only this. Only them. But the world outside never sleeps. The next morning, headlines screamed. "Scandal continues. Park heir and American consultant under investigation." Ethan's fingerprints were everywhere. Anonymous sources, manipulated evidence, social media accounts. The city was buzzing with speculation, and Sarah realized the fight wasn't over. Giles wrapped an arm around her as they looked at the headlines. "We rebuild again," he said firmly. "We face it together. Whatever he throws at us." Sarah nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. For the first time in her life she felt the kind of certainty that comes from knowing someone is standing with you, even when the world is trying to tear you apart. And deep down she knew, Whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. The morning sun glinted off the glass towers of Philadelphia, but inside Sarah's apartment there was no warmth. Her phone buzzed constantly, alerts, notifications, messages. Headlines screamed accusations. Again, but this time they weren't anonymous. Someone had named names, traced the manipulation. Giles stood beside her, calm but deadly, scanning every article, every social media post. Ethan's fingerprints are all over this, Sarah whispered. I know, Giles said quietly. And he won't get away with it. By mid-morning, Giles had made his move. First, he called Ethan's office, using every connection he had to track the web of lies, leaked documents, and doctored screenshots. Every partner who had been manipulated or misled received one simple message. We have evidence of your involvement. Withdraw or face legal action. By noon, Ethan's attempts to spread rumors, leak information, or influence media outlets were crumbling. Editors who had once published manipulated claims were forced to issue clarifications. Anonymous sources disappeared. And Ethan, desperate, humiliated, powerless, realized that for the first time he was on the defensive. But Giles didn't stop there. He turned his attention back to Park Architecture Group. Chairman Park's board had begun, murmuring after weeks of scandal, questioning Giles' choices. Yet he didn't hesitate. He strode into the headquarters, leather briefcase in hand, presence commanding, eyes sharp. The receptionist flinched. Mr. Park, she said. Sir. I'm reclaiming my office, he said, voice calm but unmistakable. Notify the board, I am back in charge. Minutes later, he stood before the boardroom, every eye on him. Giles, one executive began cautiously, after the scandal. I don't care what anyone says, Giles interrupted firmly. I built this company, I defended its reputation, and I will run it. Not because of fear. Not because of whispers. But because I know what this company stands for, and it isn't manipulation, it isn't betrayal. It's architecture. Honesty. It's integrity. The room went silent. He continued, voice steely. Anyone who doubts me or thinks they can undermine me through lies will answer to the full extent of the law. I'm done hiding. I'm done compromising. And I will protect those who are unfairly attacked. Starting with Sarah Harris. Meanwhile, Sarah watched from the office next door, hands clenched at her sides. She had always admired Giles' strength, but seeing it in action, direct, unapologetic, fearless, made her heart ache in ways she hadn't expected. You're incredible, she whispered. Giles glanced at her, lips curving slightly. Not incredible, he said. Focused. And I have someone worth fighting for. Her cheeks warmed. That someone me? Yes, he said simply. By evening, Ethan's world had collapsed completely. His office had been investigated, partners severed ties, and his social media accounts were under scrutiny for harassment and defamation. Every attempt to regain control failed. Giles' legal team contacted him one last time. Withdraw completely, they said, or face civil and criminal action. He swallowed, rage contorting his face. This isn't over, he spat. Giles leaned in, cold and sharp. It is over. For you. Forever. That night, back at Sarah's apartment, the air was quiet for the first time in weeks. She collapsed on the couch, exhausted but relieved. You really did it. I did what had to be done, he replied, sitting beside her, taking her hand gently. You don't have to live in fear anymore. Neither of us do. Her head fell against his shoulder. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, he murmured. Their hands intertwined, and for the first time, the silence wasn't heavy or terrifying. It was full of promise. And outside, the city moved on, but inside, two people finally had the quiet to rebuild not just their careers but their hearts. Philadelphia gleamed under a late afternoon sun, but inside Park Architecture Group, the tension was thick enough to cut. Chairman Park De-Jong had arrived personally from Seoul. His presence alone made the boardroom feel smaller, colder. Every executive sat rigid, whispers buzzing beneath the surface. Giles Park stood at the head of the table, shoulders squared, eyes steady. Beside him, Sarah Harris stood quietly, no fear in her posture, only a quiet determination that had grown stronger over the past weeks. Giles, Chairman Park began, voice calm but sharp, I hear you've been defiant. And your companion, he said, glancing at Sarah, is implicated in more chaos than you realize. Sarah met his gaze evenly. Sir, I am not the source of chaos. Lies, manipulation, and false narratives are. And we've documented everything. Chairman Park's dark eyes flickered. He had expected fear, tears, maybe even submission. Not this. Giles stepped forward. I've reclaimed my position in this company, he said firmly. Not because I need approval from anyone. Not because of inheritance or legacy. Because I earned. And because I will not allow anyone to hurt the woman I love. The room was silent. Chairman Park leaned back, evaluating. He had underestimated his son. Again. You think you are free from consequence, he said finally, but freedom has a price. I know the price, Giles replied evenly. But the cost of obedience, blind obedience, is far higher. I choose love. I choose integrity. And I choose Sarah. For the first time, Chairman Park's expression softened, just slightly. You always were stubborn, he said, almost a concession. Very well. You may have proven your point. But understand this, your choices will define more than just yourselves. Giles nodded. I am ready for that responsibility. Chairman Park studied Sarah next. And you? Sarah met his gaze. I am here because I love him. And I will not stand aside for fear of legacy, family, or false rumors. I am his partner, in life and in work. If you cannot accept that, then the choice is yours. A long silence filled the room. Finally, Chairman Park exhaled slowly. Very well, he said. Then may you both prove your worth not only to me but to yourselves. Later that evening, Giles and Sarah stood on the balcony of his office. Philadelphia spread out like a glittering sea below. The city felt quiet, almost reverent. You did it, Sarah whispered, leaning against him. You faced him. You fought. You didn't back down. Giles wrapped his arm around her, resting his chin on her head. We did it together. She smiled, head still on his shoulder. I couldn't have done it without you. And I don't want to ever try. He tilted his head, brushing a soft kiss across her temple. Then don't. We face everything together from now on. That night, in the quiet of his penthouse, Sarah and Giles finally allowed themselves the intimacy they had been holding back, slow, gentle, filled with tenderness rather than desperation. Every touch, every whispered word, every embrace was a promise. A promise that the past could not touch them anymore. A promise that, together, they were stronger than any scandal, any family, any betrayal. And as they fell asleep entwined, hearts beating in sync, the city outside remained oblivious to the love that had survived storms, lies, and power plays, and now would shape its own legacy. Weeks later, the headlines were different. Park heir and American consultant stand tall after scandal. Giles Park reclaims his empire, partner Sarah Harris by his side. No one questioned Sarah's talent. No one doubted Giles' integrity. And for the first time, Philadelphia didn't just feel like home, it felt like theirs. Philadelphia glimmered beneath the twilight sky, the streets alive with lights reflecting off the river. But inside Le Jardin Etoile, an exclusive, softly lit restaurant tucked away atop one of the tallest buildings in the city, time felt suspended. Sarah Harris stepped carefully in her heels, heart fluttering despite the elegant calm of the space. The room smelled of roses and candle wax, faint notes of piano music drifting from a corner. Giles Park was already waiting at a table for two, seated in a crisp black suit, a subtle smile tugging at the corners of his lips. His eyes, dark and steady, lifted as she approached. Sarah, he said softly, standing. You look breathtaking. She laughed, cheeks warming. You always say that. Not always like this, he said, motioning for her to sit. Tonight is special. The dinner was perfect. Light courses, delicate flavors, the kind of food that made conversation effortless. They spoke quietly, about everything and nothing, reminiscing over the chaos they had survived, laughing softly at the absurdity of how much trouble a single week had caused, and savoring the rare normalcy. And all the while, Sarah noticed subtle signs, the way Giles' hand lingered near hers, the way his eyes never left her face, the slight tension in his posture, like he was holding something. When the dessert came, delicate chocolate truffles arranged like stars, he finally reached across the table. Sarah, he said, voice low, serious yet warm. These past months we've faced storms I never imagined. And through it all, I realized something very clearly. Her heart skipped. What's that? That you are not just part of my life, he said, taking her hand in his. You are my choice. You are my choice. My home. The one I want beside me, not because anyone told me I should, not because it's convenient or safe, but because nothing else matters when I think of you. Sarah's eyes shimmered. Giles. He reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. Her breath caught before he opened it, revealing a delicate ring, a single diamond that caught the soft candlelight like a tiny star. I can't promise life without storms, he said, dropping to one knee. But I can promise that whatever comes, I will face it with you. Sarah Harris, will you marry me? Tears welled in her eyes. The room felt suddenly infinite, piano music, candlelight, the city below, all fading into a moment that was just theirs. Yes, she whispered, voice trembling. Giles, darling. I will. He slipped the ring onto her finger, standing to pull her into an embrace that left no space for fear, no room for doubt. Their lips met, soft at first, then urgent, sealing the promise of forever. For the first time since the chaos began, Sarah felt entirely safe, completely known, completely loved. And as they looked out over Philadelphia from their quiet sanctuary, hand in hand, she knew that the storms they had survived were only the beginning of the life they would build together. The sound of waves crashing against soft white sand filled the early morning air. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the horizon in delicate hues of pink, gold, and lavender. The beach was empty except for a small arch draped in flowing white fabric, scattered petals leading to it, and the soft hum of the ocean. Sarah Harris stood barefoot on the sand, her dress light and elegant, flowing with the morning breeze. Her hair caught the sunlight in gentle waves, her eyes shining with a mix of excitement, love, and a little disbelief at how far she had come. At the edge of the water, Giles Park waited. His suit was tailored perfectly, but his tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled slightly, relaxed yet still regal. His eyes never left hers. The world beyond this beach no longer mattered. Sarah, he said softly, voice low and reverent, I promise in this life and whatever comes after, I am yours. Her heart thumped, tears threatening to spill. And I am yours, Giles. Always. The ceremony was private, just the two of them, a close officiant and a few silent witnesses. Hidden in the dunes. I vow, Giles said, taking her hands in his, to protect you, to trust you, to challenge you, and to love you with everything I have. In storms and in calm, in silence and in laughter, I choose you. Sarah's voice trembled with emotion. I vow to stand beside you, to be honest, to fight for us, and to let our love be our guide always. I choose you, Giles, every day. They exchanged rings, small, elegant, a perfect circle reflecting endless commitment. When they kissed, the ocean seemed to cheer with them. The morning wind carried away past fears, scandals, and betrayals, leaving only hope, trust, and love. After the ceremony, they walked hand in hand along the shore, sand cool beneath their feet. I never imagined, Sarah whispered, leaning her head against his shoulder, that I could feel this completely safe, this happy. Giles kissed the top of her head. We earned this. Every obstacle, every lie, every battle, we built this moment ourselves. The sun climbed higher, golden and warm. The beach stretched endlessly, private and untouched. The waves whispered their approval, and for once the future felt simple and full of possibility. And there, in the quiet intimacy of the morning, Sarah and Giles Park began the next chapter of their life together, not defined by scandal, not bound by anyone's expectations, but by love, trust, and the freedom to choose each other every day. Thank you for watching. Your support means a lot to us. See you in the next story.